There will be 3 speakers today for the symposium, and I would like to introduce the first speaker. His name is Shikhar Agnihotri. He is the National Lecturer of the Indian section of the Theosophical Society for the past 5 years, and an international speaker of the TS for the past 3 years. Shikhar's education is in the Bachelor of Science in Nautical Science from Mumbai University. He was previously in the shipping profession and is now voluntarily retired after working 10 years in shipping services. He has been a member of the TS since 2008, inspired by his mother, who is a member since the 1980s. Shikhar's involvement of activities as a member includes a founder member and former secretary of the Pragya Lodge, Lucknow, founder member and secretary of Maitri Group of TOS, Lucknow, conducted study camps, seminars, youth camps, and public lectures on theosophical subjects and holistic health all over India in schools and colleges. Lastly, co-founded the YouTube channel Pragya CS Studio in May 2020 with his wonderful wife, Catalina, to make the theosophical teachings accessible to as many as possible in different languages. So let us welcome Shikhar.
Thank you, Francis. It's so good to be a speaker when you are a convention officer. You don't have to look at the mobile phone for an hour. Thank you, Francis, and dear and respected chairperson of the session, my co-speakers, sisters and brothers, and all the delegates attending online. Respectful pranams to you all. And I would like to begin with the invocation to that Guru principle which is teaching us all the time. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I would like to make an admission here that standing here on this side of the podium is not just the source of fear of public speaking and the sense of responsibility given, but also a great source of pleasure due to the view that it provides. The view of the individuals coming from diverse geographical locations, physical appearances, languages, ideologies, coming together like a bouquet of flowers, related and connected to each other by the sacred common thread of hidden love. And it is about this relationship based on love and the significance of its realization that I will be sharing few thoughts on in the light of our responsibility in the interconnected world. Responsibility, as we all know, is the ability to respond properly in relation to a particular situation with a person or to any animate or inanimate being. And unlike reaction, which is mostly fragmented as it is based on our conditionings, response, on the other hand, is mostly holistic as it is based on the true understanding of the situation as it is. And that is why no matter what one does, whatever action somebody does, if that action is rooted in the understanding of this relationship with the environment, that action will always be holistic. And when we choose to ignore this interconnection, we come face to face with several challenges, not only at the personal level, but also at the global level. Whether it is wars, global climate change, violence in different forms or for different reasons, or increasing levels of stress, depression, anger in individuals and in relationships. Every such consequence is the product of not realizing this relationship, this inherent relationship that exists in nature. And that is why maybe selfishness or sense of separateness is called as the root, the source of evil. But coming back to our theme, does this responsibility mean that we follow some external instruction to see the things in their true nature? And it is in this reference I would like to share, and I'm sure most of us must have heard this reference in one way or the another, of one child, elder child, carrying another younger child on her shoulders or in the arms. And the story says that another passerby asked that girl, who is the elder child, that you must be feeling burdened. And the girl replies, he is not a burden, he is my brother. The difference here lies in the perception of both the people, the person who is passing by and the girl who is carrying the baby. For the person, that child, younger child, is a burden, but for the girl, he is her brother. And what is remarkable here is that not even the thought of being a burden comes to the mind of the elder sister. And that is how we can see that sense of being related to someone can change our thinking. And that is how one learns to sacrifice and serve for family and friends, tree of unconditional and universal love. And along the same lines, I can't stop myself from sharing a real life incident to show how children are naturally aware of this interconnection. And our system, the culture, the environment corrupts them. It happened to a distant relative of mine. When she was a child, she used to visit the farm where the family used to have some pets. And just as a child would do, on one of these visits, she made friends with a little chick, a baby chicken. And during the course of this friendship, she enjoyed and loved, and she was so happy to play, to feed, and to caress this little being. And on one of such visits, she found that that friend of hers is disappeared from the farm. And later on, she came to know that the friend had disappeared from the farm and appeared in the plate on the table. Now imagine the amount of trauma that she must have gone through. And not just her. How many children have to go through this because of their immediate surroundings? And many of us might have seen a very beautiful movie, and if not seen, it's highly recommended, called Charlotte's Web, which shows in such a cute way that how the sense of being related to someone has the capacity to not only change oneself, but also the surroundings. Which in turn means the moment I realize the true nature of my relationship with the other, I can no longer remain the same person. My whole perception changes. My way of living completely changes. My attitude and approach towards not only other humans, but also all life changes. Whether it is taking care of our shoes, clothes, or all the things that we call things, or not alive, or vehicle, or it is taking care of the food that we eat by not wasting water or energy in any form, everything changes. Because when we realize that I am alive due to the sacrifice of so many entities around me, what other feeling can come from my heart except of gratitude and of being responsible to contribute in a good way to this process called life. But we may ask, have we not realized our relationship now? Do we not care for our friends or our loved ones? Yes, we all do. Yes, we all sacrifice for our families and friends, and that's how we grow from personal to universal, from illness of I to wellness of we. But mostly our relationships are based on identities and expectations based on those identities. The identities or labels that are put on us right from the moment of birth. Not only the labels of gender, religion, family, nationality, but also the labels of relationships, son, daughter, father, mother, husband, wife. And later on, we go on adding to this list of labels our likes, dislikes, opinions, prejudices. And behind this multi-layered thick veil, our true nature goes out of sight. And hence, we begin to consider ourselves these superficial identities. And the interesting thing is, since we think of ourselves as these superficial entities, our relationships also are based on these superficial identities, and that's why they become superficial. Because we can only see and relate to in the other to the depth that we have discovered in ourselves. And that is why an Adi Shankaracharya has to declare, Neti, Neti, I am none of these labels. I am the Shiv. Shivoham, Shivoham, that immutable principle in which we live and move and have our being. If I believe I am the body, desires, emotions, my relationships will be based on the expectations of bodily comforts, likes, dislikes, ideologies. And if I begin to realize that I am none of that, instead, I am something much deeper and grander, the quality of our relationships will be completely different. And we all know At the Feet of the Master is one of the three jewels of theosophical literature. And it has many pearls of wisdom, one of which says, learn to distinguish the God in everyone and in everything, no matter how evil he or it may appear on the surface. You can help your brother through that which you have in common with him, and that is the divine life. Unquote. The sacred common thread of divine life that binds each and every atom in this existence, in this manifestation. Because this relation is not mere of body or mind. And to go one step further, this relationship is not even of the interconnection of the isolated fragments. Instead, it is the realization of the fragment that there never was a fragment. There never was separateness. There never was another entity. Realization that there is no I. And if there is an I, then I am that. As Upanishad says, Aham Brahmasmi. There is no you. And if there is a you, you are that too. Tattvam asi. And there is nothing else. And if there is something else, that something else also is that Brahman too. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman. And this is the ultimate realization of that relationship that we have for long given the name of universal brotherhood or siblinghood, and which is also the source of declaration of from ancient Indian civilization of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole earth is a family, and which by coincidence or something is also the theme of the G20 group of 20 countries. This year they also have the theme, one earth, one life, one future. So maybe somehow our theme inspired them, because our theme was announced much long time back in August. So it is this realization of relationship that theosophy, and that's how we can see also how the collective thought, invisible thought can manifest in different ways. So it is this realization of relationship that theosophy teaches. And it is with the aim of this perception that TS was founded, to perceive this relationship hidden underneath the various mind-made identities. And this realization is nothing else but that state of love, the light of which is wisdom, and the expression of which is compassion. A state where there is no I, no you, but only love and compassion, or that. And it is in this light we can see why compassion is called the law of laws. Why are the adepts often referred to as the masters of wisdom or compassion? And why is self-realization the focal point of every spiritual discipline across the planet? And why the most significant and urgent responsibility in this interconnected world is to realize this interconnection. And therefore, we have so many disciplines to walk this path of realization. But if we look closely, all those paths, all these external disciplines from different schools, from different backgrounds, there comes a stage when all of them point towards one state and one direction. That direction is inwards, and that state is awareness. And why so? Because we all must have learned from experience that awareness brings an end to a habitual action. And the source of this awareness is within. If I ask somebody a question that how many people are here subconsciously moving the hand or feet, or suddenly the moment the question is heard, whatever we are doing, suddenly we stop because we become aware of that thing. So awareness has that capacity to put an end to a habitual action, and the source of which the homing signal lies within. And the studies indicate that maximum of 95% of human behavior falls into the category of habit. And the most interesting and inspiring aspect of sense of separateness or selfishness, as I understand, is that it is also fundamentally a habit. It is just a way of thinking that has evolved or developed over a period of time, due to self-preservation or survival instinct. And the flame of awareness has the capacity to put an end to this habit of being obsessed with I. And the mantra of SMS still holds good, even in the times of WhatsApp that we are having right now. But SMS still holds good, steady meditation and service when we do them with awareness. And coming to an end, but the question arises, how to be aware like that? Because in the surge of desires, emotions, and ambitions, we tend to forget everything, which happens to many of the aspirants of a spiritual path, including the speaker, because such has been our habit of reaction instead of response. But one thing that I find personally helpful in this is the International Code of Signal of Distress, used by the ships, especially by the ships at sea, but now all over the world, of which many of us may be aware, and that is called SOS. We might have heard it many times in different scenarios. It basically means save our souls. But for our purposes, I would like to give it a different meaning. Stop, observe, and start anew. SOS, the inner capacity to say stop in the middle of an ongoing tussle, whether within or without, is the first step. The reason being, the moment we stop completely, not only physically, but also mentally, emotionally, everything, not escaping, not fighting, not indulging in anything, just stop, we shift from the circumference to the center, from the noise of the crowd to the sanctum sanctorum of our heart, a level above the situation prevailing. Because now, instead of being led by the emotions, we are taking control of them. And the moment we do that, the moment we become a level higher, we are able to observe the situation holistically, which earlier we were not, because we were involved in that situation, blinded by the emotions. And the moment we observe holistically a situation, the solution of that situation automatically comes. How? We'll just see. Because the solution of a problem cannot be found on the same level of the problem. Because to see the problem, we have to have the full view of the problem or the situation. And once there is this holistic observation, we spontaneously start anew with the proper response to a particular situation, which is also called right action. Although each step of SOS, or stop, observe, and start, is important, but most important is to stop. Because it opens up the window of possibility for the fresh breeze of wisdom and awareness to influence the mind, to come inside the mind. And that is all we need. And that is all what all of us have done by coming here to attend this convention. By putting a stop or break to our routine lives caught between the personal and the professional front. And may this immortal seed of awareness of interconnection that is being sown in our hearts and our minds in this gathering raise us all up. It grows, spreads, and covers all the aspects of our lives like the immortal great banyan tree, and we all start anew upon our return to our respective battlefields or Kurukshetras of life. With this wish and lots of love to all of us, I give rest to my voice and looking forward to listen to our fellow speakers. Thank you, Namaste, and Happy New Year.
Wow, such a insightful and inspiring talk by Shikhar. I'm still a little bit stunned, but yeah. But let's move on to the second speaker. Yes, her name is Vibha Saksena. She is a national lecturer of the Indian section and secretary of the Noida Lodge. She has been a member of the Indian section for the TS since 2015. She holds a master's degree in computer science and lives in Noida, the national capital region, with her loving family. Traveling widely for work and vacation has brought her the love of people, places, and cultures. Love for traveling is only dwarfed by the love of theosophy. Alongside her career, she pursued deep self-study in physical science at first, then the philosophies of different regions, looking for meaningful answers to questions larger than life. Finally, she chanced upon theosophy, or did it choose her? Who knows? But did it bring a sense of closure and at the same time flung wide open the doors of the great beyond of everyday life? So search is over and journey begins, transitioning from a career-oriented, worldly life to a spiritually awakened, higher life. She firmly believes the greatest service one can do for the world is self-transformation. She continues her work in IT, allowing these academic qualifications be useful. But now, she does it with a widened perspective, aware of the great beyond, ever beckoning for exploration, giving new insights and new meaning to life. Let us welcome Vibha on Knowing, Being, Doing.
Thank you very much, Francis, for that kind introduction. And namaste, dear brothers and sisters. My voice must be very familiar to many people. I was very glad to meet them in person today in this convention. And before I begin, I just want to share something which came to my mind while I was seated there. I was telling one of my friends, she lives in Houston in Texas. I told her that this 147th International Convention of the Theosophical Society is taking place, and in which I am going to be a speaker. So this is the first time for me. I was very happy. And she said, okay, what is the convention about? I told her it is about responsibility in an interconnected world. And she said, you know, Vibha, nobody wants to be told what to do. Oh, there you go. I said, right. Nobody wants to be told what to do. What is your responsibility? And I thought, who will know? Who should know it better than me? For I have 2 teenage children. They don't want to listen what to do. Okay. So having said that, it's a great pleasure and privilege to be here to share these thoughts with you. And I made sure that this will not be a sermon, not sermonizing what to do, what is the responsibility. We all know what is our responsibility. But rather to recall and remind of the great truths which were given to us 147 years earlier. And those truths automatically set our responsibility. That is the only need. So I'm most thankful to the organizers for this opportunity. And when dear Maria, I haven't spoken to her till now, but there you are. So when she first wrote to me that, will you be a speaker at the convention? The first thought that came to my mind was, what would the great ones want to be conveyed 147 years after the society was formed? In the first place, they gave us some universal truths. It was merely lifting a corner of the wheel, but it was sufficient to lift the masses out of their misery, out of their misconceptions, from that swamp of superstition. And then it was our responsibility to chew on those truths, to assimilate these truths in the fabric of our daily life, and also to help others know them. That was the greatest responsibility. So 147 years later, it is for each one of us to self-examine how far, to what extent have we shouldered that responsibility. The great universal truths which were given, they are never lost, but they remain silent for lack of speech. And now in speaking about them, many questions are posed sometimes as to their relevance in daily life and in the challenges that are plaguing mankind. And it is from this perspective that I hope to examine our responsibility in the interconnected world. Madame Blavatsky, who was a direct messenger of the great ones, she urged us to hold the idea of fundamental unity of all existence in the background of our mind when we embark upon any study or any convention or any meeting or any talk that we want to share. And this existence is not any collection of things that are linked together by separate means. Rather, it is the one absolute being. It is the reality in every form that exists, from the atom to the man to the God. So while the inner essence of septenary man is one with the absolute being, he manifests in the world as a triune. He manifests as the divinity, the individuality, and the personality. Divinity, which is the Atma Buddhi, it embodies the aspect of knowing. Individuality is the Atma Buddhi Manas, embodying the aspect of the being of man. And personality, the lower quaternary, is the embodiment of his aspect of doing. So we shall now focus on the responsibility stemming from each of these aspects. As I mentioned, that divinity, Atma Buddhi, it embodies the faculty of knowingness. It is the innate awareness of the highest spiritual truths and actual experience of unity. Mind you, Atma Buddhi is our constitution, and at that level, there is the actual experience of unity of all life. This occult fact has been verified and validated by the perfected men. Oneness with all life can also be experienced in states of samadhi. And anyone who's willing to put himself through that spiritual discipline can experience it for himself. So this is a monumental truth. And this monumental truth brings home the realization that everything and everyone is only seemingly separate, but factually united as the one fundamental existence, or what we call the Supreme Self. Oneness of life, it may not be experiential knowledge at our personal level, yet it becomes a great moral responsibility to abide by this universal truth. It is our moral responsibility to abide by this universal truth, to look out for and to serve all beings of the universal family. And this is limited not just to the human kingdom, but including those lower in the scale of evolution, the animals, the plants, and the minerals. In serving others, he serves himself, as there is no other. All is one life. This is the tremendous import of knowingness, which comes from Atma Buddhi. And this is the responsibility it sets upon man. To what extent are we shouldering these responsibilities is a question each one should ask himself. And answers to these questions are the milestones on your spiritual path. Now, coming to the second aspect, being. Being is the process of continuous becoming. The one life becoming mineral, becoming plant, and now, becoming animal, and now becoming man. Man too is continuously becoming. From the brute man to the human man to the perfected man. It is his individuality, the Atma Buddhi Manas, which makes him human being, setting upon him the responsibility of being human. So, it is the thinking principle, the Manas, that imparts intellectual knowledge about oneness of life. We are talking about the individuality, where the Manas comes into play. So it is the intellectual knowledge about oneness of life, if not experiential. Experiential knowledge is at the level of Atma Buddhi. So we see, though separate in form, we are one in spirit, truly making us children of the one Father. Hence, brotherhood becomes our first and foremost relation with all fellow men. And armed with this intellectual knowledge, it is incumbent on every member of the Theosophical Society to make universal brotherhood a far more realized and living reality. In fact, alleviation of global problems depends in definite measure upon actualizing this first object of the TS. Now, as we further examine, as we further explore our being human, it becomes evident that all our efforts, our spiritual endeavors, they are directed towards realizing the divinity within, the God within. Now, I'm making this point because I want to share with you the most touching statement made by a principal. He was the founder of a school for the children of the most downtrodden classes. And he said to me, no, he did not say to me, I have just read about it. He said, in our quest to be God, we forgot to be human. This touched a chord somewhere deep in my heart. In our quest to be God, we forgot to be human. Yeah? And this is the sorry state of man trying to play God. The progress ushered by the advancement in science and technology, it is far outweighed in retrogression. So instead of progression, it brings retrogression by putting it to use for exploitation of nature, for weapons of war, for bringing untold suffering to human and the subhuman kingdoms alike. What our eyes of flesh see, it is but a minuscule part of the tremendous pain and the cries of agony going out into the subtle spheres of the world, which the invisible helpers on the other side of sleep and death, they do try to alleviate. That never comes into our knowledge. And these ominous clouds created by us in the astral atmosphere of the world, they rain back the karma of man. It comes back to him in incomprehensible ways, bringing in their wake global disease, death, and natural calamities in some measure. Madame Blavatsky has amply emphasized this truth to her pupils. It's a note to be taken by all of us. So let us not forget the responsibility of those who know is far greater than those who do not. Have we really abandoned our responsibility of being human, and to what extent? We need to ask ourselves now and set it right now. Setting our own example is the only way our children will get it right, so that they may become harbingers of hope and progress in the true sense. This is our responsibility. Now, you see the relevance of the theosophical truths. That was the question posed by people, some to me also. The inevitable cycle of evolution continues. We are moving from the 4th root race to the 6th root race. And whether we transition peacefully, harmoniously, scaling the heights of spiritual progress, or whether we transition by bringing about our own destruction and annihilation, like the Atlantean root race before us, it depends on how soon we wake up to our responsibility of being human in the earnest. So being human is our divine nature. It is to allow our divine nature to shine through this cloak of matter which we are wearing. And the heart of divinity is infinite compassion. Being merciful, being compassionate, helping our brothers, and supplying his wants ahead of our needs. Lending a helping hand to those on the lower rungs of the ladder of evolution is our responsibility of being human. Now, in our day-to-day life, we spend more time doing than being. Doing is action, and man is responsible for his actions. So now I'm speaking about the third aspect, doing, which is action. And why is man responsible for his actions? As the life is evolving through the kingdoms of mineral, plant, animal, and human, it's only man who is responsible, not the animal, not the plant, not the mineral. So it is the fifth principle, the manas. It endows man with the power of thinking and with the freedom of choice, the free will. Man is thus free to create the causes, but he is not free from the ensuing effects. He is responsible for those effects. Because instead of acting on instinct, he had the freedom to choose restraint. He had the freedom to choose righteous conduct. So with great freedom comes great responsibility upon man. Now, ordinarily, our responsibilities are determined by the roles we play. See, we are talking about doing, the action, which happens at a personality level. So here we have assumed roles, and our responsibilities are determined by the roles we assume. Roles emerge from relationships we share. Most apparent relations are our family relations, the social relations, our professional relations, and so on. And with the widening circle of our interconnection from family to friends, to neighborhood, to nation, the scope of responsibility also increases. Yet, our responsiveness tends to decrease, sometimes even to the point of indifference. And why should this be? Because, I'll tell you why. If something happens far out there in the world, like a flood or a famine or an earthquake, our immediate comfort zone is not affected. So such events, they may become a drawing room conversation. But our self-centered attitude prevents us from realizing that we are in some measure responsible for them. Most people are incredulous. How, they ask? The answer once again lies in the great occult truths revealed by Theosophy. The one absolute existence manifests as this multifarious world of ours through serial emanation of 7 cosmic elements and pervades it as the one life. The forms of all beings are constituted of numerous gradations, permutations, and combinations of these very elements, making this whole universe a conscious web of life, one living organism. Every being is an integral part of this whole. So naturally, the doing of every being must necessarily affect the whole. His doing is his karma, thinking, feeling, acting, sending vibrations rippling across this web of life, perpetuating their effects throughout the universe, and returning to him as per the occult science of action and reaction, the law of karma. That is what Joy Mills has said. I would like to quote her here. Though I may not have caused an earthquake or a tsunami, yet my thoughts and feelings of anger, greed, prejudice, self-concern must contribute in some way to informing this universe, so as to having their effect in some measure across time and space. This is what we broadcast. She continued, so also my thoughts and feelings of goodwill, love, compassion, and understanding must contribute to this informed universe of which I am an integral part. Precisely so, each one of us bears a compelling moral responsibility towards all that happens in the world. A responsibility by way of right conduct, not only in action, but also in thoughts and feelings, which we are continuously broadcasting into the subtle spheres surrounding our world. The essence of responsibility is beautifully captured in the words of a very senior theosophist of my lodge, and I'm proud to have known this person. He said, the universe is echoing our thoughts. We receive what we send. Send only that which you want. And it is not only the global conditions, it is also our personal situations which are of our own making. I'm sure all of you have read the 3 great truths and understand them. It says, each man is his own absolute lawgiver, the dispenser of glory or gloom to himself, the decreer of his life, his reward, his punishment. This great truth implies that what we call our destiny is not written in stone. It is of our own making, of our own doing, our own actions. Thus, it becomes our responsibility. Theosophy tells us there is an infallible cosmic order underlying all natural phenomena. And so, this whole order of nature, it evinces a progressive march towards a higher life. If man's actions are in harmony with this cosmic order, aiding this progress, he becomes part of the great stream of evolution. But if his actions are in discord with the cosmic order, they disrupt the evolutionary progress, pitting him against the mighty laws of the universe, against which he is sure to be crushed in time. So it is our thinking, feeling, acting, which is the determining factor of our evolutionary progress. Our doing may become our savior or our nemesis. To summarize, our responsibility is knowing the unity of life to serve others as ourself, because there is no other. Being human is to allow our divine nature to shine through, and doing actions such that it aids all evolutionary progress. The milestones of our spiritual progress are determined by the extent we shoulder these responsibilities with integrity. Thank you. Namaste.
Wow. It's a wonderful sharing by Vibha. And thank you for putting things into perspective. Yes. And I'll start with the introduction of the third speaker. Yeah. His name is Stephen McDonald. He has been an active member for the Theosophical Society since 1976. He is a past president of the Blavatsky Lodge in Sydney and is currently the national president of the TS in Australia. He has had an enduring interest in the work of J. Krishnamurti and theosophical classics such as The Voice of Silence and The Light on the Path. For many years, Stephen ran a private clinic as a homeopath and later became a lecturer at Torrens University. He holds a Master of Health Science degree from Newcastle University and a graduate certificate in teaching. And let us welcome Stephen McDonald on the subject, altruism and regeneration.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending these talks this morning. It's a pleasure to see you all here. And I'd like to, first of all, just show you a quick slide that was taken by my friend of Mount Kanchenjunga when I was staying there a few days back in Darjeeling. And we had a most marvellous hotel that had a view directly on Kanchenjunga. It was, of course, breathtaking. It being the third highest peak in the world, not much lower in elevation to Mount Everest, and an extraordinary shot. What does that have to do with my talk? Well, nothing directly, but I just thought it would be lovely to share that with you. So, in this short talk, then, I'm going to be exploring the responsibility we have for one another by looking at two of the most important principles in theosophy: human regeneration and altruism. And I'll be relating both of these ideas to the life and health of our lodges, branches and groups, and to the broader society as a whole. I'll be defining the real purpose of our lodges and why they are important to the community around them. In a longer talk, I discussed these principles using the lotus flower as an analogy. But today, I'll only focus my analysis on the meaning of altruism and regeneration because we don't have a lot of time. So first, let's consider the principle of human regeneration. What does this word actually mean? In the worldly sense, the Cambridge Dictionary defines regeneration as the act of improving a place or system, especially by making it more active or successful. Of course, in a spiritual sense, regeneration is much deeper than just improving the material world. It involves an internal revolution in which we examine the source of life's problems, because without examining the source of our problems, no amount of reshaping the world around us will result in any level of contentment. I actually thought when Shikhar was talking about SOS, stop, observe, and start again, that in a way that is what regeneration is also about. Radha Bernier, our former international president, lectured and wrote about the subject of human regeneration. And she observed that although the Theosophical Society has three objects, it surely has only a single purpose, which is to uplift humanity from the moral and spiritual point of view. Everywhere we see attempts that are retarded because of selfishness, tensions and indifference. So progress must centre around a new outlook and new attitudes. Mrs. Bernier emphasised that a theosophist does not seek wisdom to benefit himself. She quotes the aphorism, "Not for himself, but for the world he lives." And the more deeply devoted he is to the regeneration of mankind, the more ardently he seeks to understand himself and the world and penetrate into the secret of life. So from this perspective, altruism and human regeneration go hand in hand. But what does altruism actually mean? It's not a word that's used that much in common parlance at all. Again, the Cambridge Dictionary provides a mundane definition, and it says the attitude of caring about others and doing acts that help them, although you do not get anything by doing those acts. Over my many years in the Theosophical Society, I have seen altruism in action, undoubtedly. I have witnessed so many people who have given service for its own sake. And I've also seen many who have joined the society for whatever benefit they can personally derive from it and leave once their desires have been fulfilled. You certainly cannot proclaim yourself to be altruistic. It's like proclaiming yourself to be humble, isn't it? It means that you're not in itself humble. It negates the effect. So we don't say we're altruistic or humble for that matter. But we see it. We see it in others. We see it in manifestation. We see it in action. Our first object is to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity. But what is actually meant by a nucleus? It seems to me that brotherhood itself arises from an altruistic mind and an undivided consciousness. In her book, Practical Occultism, Madame Blavatsky wrote that he who would profit by the wisdom of the universal mind has to reach it through the whole of humanity without distinction of race, complexion, religion, or social status. It is altruism, she says, not egoism, even in its most legal and noble conception, that can lead the unit to merge its little self in the universal selves. And when discussing karma in the Key to Theosophy, HPB explains that it is an occult law, moreover, that no man can rise superior to his individual failings without lifting, be it ever so little, the whole body of which he is an integral part. In the same way, no one can sin or suffer the effects of sin alone. Again, this tends to reflect on the two previous speakers' sentiments within their talks as well, I think, about the unity of all life. She goes on to say, in reality, there is no such thing as separateness, and the nearest approach to that selfish state which the laws of life permit are in the intent or motive. But if we just talk about brotherhood and oneness, but never try to move in that direction in our daily lives, our society can become racked by friction and factions, which of course works in the opposite direction to brotherhood. Annie Besant, the second president of the Theosophical Society, made a very insightful comment about altruism. I love this stamp that was issued. I actually bought one of these stamps when I was here in 1986, and I still have it somewhere in a box, tucked away carefully, because I loved that stamp that she was on. It sort of really said something about her position in Indian society that the government put her on a stamp. Anyway, she said the wonderful words, "The spiritual man must lead a higher life than the life of altruism." This is interesting, isn't it? It must be a higher life, greater than altruism. He must lead the life of self-identification with all that lives and moves. There is no other in this world. We are all one. Each is a separate form, but one spirit moves and lives in all. I think that statement could be contemplated, meditated upon. It has so much depth to it. Wonderful, wonderful statement, I thought. By that, of course, she means that we share one consciousness at the end of the day. And I think science even is moving toward an understanding of human consciousness that may eventually demonstrate the nexus between science and spirituality or religion. I ask you, if we could see this and feel this as a reality in our lives, would there be a war going on in the Ukraine right now? I don't think so. We'd be looking at a very different world. So how do we, as members of the Theosophical Society, awaken the insight to see the depth of the altruistic mind? Perhaps using quiet moments to calm the mind and emotions. A few nights ago, I heard dogs barking where I was staying. They woke me up, and then the clock was ticking. You've all had that experience, haven't you? Something wakes you up, and then there's another sound and another sound, and then there was a train horn. And I thought of Pablo Sender, because Pablo Sender said, he said, in small ways, don't try to do things in big ways. He said, just in small ways in your lives, just become aware. And I was listening to the sounds without reacting to them, which normally, of course, most of us react, don't we, when we're woken up in the middle of the night by something and we become irritated eventually because we can't get back to sleep, etc. Becoming aware in that silence of the sacredness of everything, even in the sound of the dog barking, in the sound of the train horn, etc. I remember listening to Joy Mills about, at least 30 years ago, maybe more, when she spoke about walking on the grass and perceiving the sacred in every blade of grass. The beauty of the way that she expressed that was extraordinary. And it still resonates with me after all these years. Isn't it true with each of us that some things resonate with us for years thereafter, not just for days or hours, days, weeks, etc., but for years thereafter? These things resonate and they still chime in your heart, and I think of it. And of course, seeing the majesty of that Mount Kanchenjunga, it also made me feel of the sacredness as well. But the sacred can be perceived in all things, even the bark of a dog or the sound of a train's horn, in good things and bad things. We can see the sacred in everything if we are aware. So, how do we make this relevant to our membership of the Theosophical Society and being in a lodge or a branch of the Theosophical Society? Well, I want to say something about the lodges and the branches and the purpose of those. A lodge in the TS is a group of members working together for a shared purpose. That purpose is described in the first object, to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity. In its simplest definition, Hugh Shearman described a lodge as a group of members living within easy communication distance of one another and meeting together at regular intervals. But he qualifies the word wisdom. He says it is a group of friends seeking wisdom together. But he qualifies the word wisdom as something much more profound than any word, however erudite it is. Wisdom, from the theosophical perspective, means much more than an accumulation of knowledge. It implies an insight which is not derived from books or from mundane experiences. Shearman goes on to say, thus, in their united pursuit of theosophy, the members of a lodge contribute most through the quality of their living and the quality of their relationship with one another, and particularly with one another. If we are working together without thought of personal gain or advantage, materially or spiritually, then regeneration must be the outcome. In conclusion, there is always an opportunity for regeneration and new horizons. If altruism is the guiding principle, a lodge can become a real centre of spiritual regeneration. A lodge should represent the essence of the values of the TS as a whole and reflect the quality of the relationship of its members. Even a small number of committed people can form that nucleus which becomes like a lotus flower for the whole community. Thank you.
Oh, such a inspiring and deep sharing by Stephen. And thank you so much, Stephen. Yes, and let us move to into the informal discussion right now. And thank you, everyone, for your attention. So my name is Francis. I'm from Singapore. Forgot to introduce myself. Thank you.